Welcome everyone to the new session of Microsoft Excel. In this session, we'll talk about something called the basic data modeling. So our topic of discussion here is basic data modeling and how you can do basic data modeling even without using Power Query and etc. Now, why we really need this data modeling? Let me explain. Suppose many a times what we'll have, we will not have a consolidated data to analyze upon. Now, if I look at this data that has been provided to me, there is an ordered data we have, which is they're given the invoice number, the month, the product category, the item in order, right? They have given me another table where they're talking about the invoice. So that is we are having the customer informations, right? And the third table I'm having is the total the transaction that has happened, based on this invoice number. So common thing we are looking at invoice number. So whenever there is a transaction has happened, the invoice number has been generated, and based on that, three different data has been created. All right, because that is requirement, and that will actually every department we really do not want to have all the information. So accordingly, information will be passed on to different department to act upon. But as an analyst, my problem here is that I have to analyze the data by consolidating everything. All right, I want to run a one query where I want to involve the order data also, the customer data also, the payment data also. So one option is definitely I create a new table. Then in the new table I add up all the columns, run a lookup analysis, and I integrate to create a absolutely new table where all the data will be there. Then all the data will be there. Then I can run the query. But many a time it may not be possible because you are actually now one thing which is absolutely against database management is redundancy of the data. So you are recreating the data again and again, which is actually take up your space, increase your cost. So you don't want to do that as a good data manager. You don't want to repeat the data again and again in different locations. I want to keep the data as it is. Still, I want to run my analysis. So that means somehow I'll have to integrate them. That is the whole idea of data modeling. Let them be the independent data in different worksheets, but still I have the capability when I run a pivot, I can bring them together in the query, not in reality. In the query, I will integrate them and I will run an analysis so I can pick up any field from any data, any table and do the analysis. Now here, one important aspect before I go into the data modeling need to understand is there is a common field between the this one that I said order table and customer table. It not need not necessarily the first column, it can be any column. But right now what I'm having, I see this invoice number is common to my order and customer. Fantastic. Now let us see, is there any common field between order and payment or customer and payment? If I look at it again, I am lucky. So invoice number is common in all the tables. Right, but it may not be the case every time. Maybe these two have a common field and maybe these two have a common field, right? So that will also work. But right now, luckily, I have all the common fields. Single invoice is the linking point through which I can link this one to the customer and this one to the payment because that is the common field every table is having. All right. Now, again, when you go into data modeling, you will have to identify which one is your primary table. That is very important to establish a relationship, right? Now, exactly what we mean by a primary table, let me explain you. That is not something that will be expressed or found anywhere, just for understanding how to build the relationship, how to do the connectivity. Now, see, if I look at it, I just take some shapes to make you understand, right? So, suppose this is my table number one, which I am calling the order. All right, then I have another table that is another table that I've seen. I'm calling it the customer. All right, so this is my customer table. This is my customer table. Just need to change. This is my customer table. Then again, I make a query, copy and paste it. This is my third payment table. Now see, I have three options of joining them. If I want to really join them in the query, in the model, I can actually, what I can do, insert, let me just show, let me take shapes. I can join this one with this one, all right? And I can join this one with this one. So order has been joined with the customer, order has been joined. So if I do it, it becomes my primary table. Same, if I join customer with payment and customer with order, customer becomes my primary table. All right. And same way, if I join this one with both, this becomes my primary table. So the challenge is how to identify which one out of these three that I'm right now having is my primary table. So then I have to look at the data and what kind of queries I am having. So this is the data here. Practically, you see, I have the label field. This is not a numeric data. This is a numeric data, but of not. So I have to choose, am I taking this particular value into the value field of the pivot for analysis, or I am taking here. So if I look at all the range that I am having, I understand whatever analysis I do, it should be respect to the sales or the revenues that I have generated. And this is the numeric data that I am having. That means this data will be taken to the value field. And if that happens, so here no data is expected to taken in the value field. Here also no data is expected to take in the value field. Here this data is expected to the value field. So my payment becomes in this case my value field. Okay, once we have identified my primary table, so this is my primary table. So primarily we understood it by that this particular data I am going to take it to the value field of the pivot analysis. So it should be my primary table. So this I am supposed to connect this one with other two tables. All right. So once I have identified the column I have in all the tables, then also I have identified which is my primary table, in the relationship when I'm going to establish. Second step is to convert all the sources into table. So we know the process. I can click anywhere inside. I can go to the insert. I click in the table. It selects the whole range. I click OK. It converts into a table. It is very important that I give it a name because otherwise later on I won't be able to identify which table is which one. It will come as table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4. All right. So I repeat the process. I come to the second one. I can also convert it into a table. I can do a control T instead. I click OK. So I also give it a name what I call the customer. All right. Now I come to the third one. I repeat the process again. I do a control T. Everything is selected. I click OK and I give it a name as payment. So what I have done, I have converted all my sources into different tables and I gave the name to the tables. All right. Now I can choose anyone to invoke the pivot. It is not necessary which one I am checking and absolutely irrelevant. All right. So let me check order. I keep the active cell inside. I go to the insert and I follow the process that I'm very comfortable on. I invoke the pivot tables going inside. Now, when I invoke the pivot table, I will have to be careful to choose this option at the bottom, add this data to the data model. So when I click it, I am adding the data into the data model. All right. So if it is not available in your Excel, so you'll have to upgrade your Excel. Right? It has been introduced maybe after 2010 versions of Excel. So once I choose it, I click OK. It will take a bit time, but eventually it will take it me to the interface that I am well aware of. So it has taken to the analysis field of the pivot. Now see here, two options there is given active and all. By active mean from which table you have invoked the pivot table, that is the active cell. So right now we have invoked from the order table. So order is in the active cell. You can do analysis with the order. But also it has picked up, if you look at it, besides there is a all option, you click on all, it has actually picked up all the tables that you have converted into table. Right? So you see, you have the customer table, you have all the fields of the customer table, you come back to the order table, you have the order table, you come back to the payment table. This is your payment table. But the problem is they are not connected now. They are all independent. So you can do a absolutely independent analysis of the payment here. So one advantage, if you want to do it, you can bring the data model every time. You need not go back to the source and create a different analysis. That is okay. But we want more than that. What do we want? I can pick up the customer first name from here, right? From the customer table. And I want from the payment table, I want to pick up the invoice total and it should be able to give me the answer. Right, but right now it's not happening. It's not happening primarily because you see, it is saying that relationship between table may be needed. So we have not established any relationship. That is what is called a data modeling. Now, exactly how to establish a relationship so that we can run a query in a multiple tables and still get a consolidated result. That is what we want. Okay. So, fine. Steps are done. Now we come to once this is done, one it has identified all the tables in the all section. Now I'll have to join them. So, do that. I go to the pivot table analysis. You see, there is a relationship option. You click on the relationship option, this particular dialog box appears. Now here I should be very, very careful. Here I make all the mistakes many a time. So I click on new. I already know my primary table is payment. So I first choose payment. And here I choose the invoice because that is the common field. Now I can choose either I choose maybe order, invoice of the order because that is the common field. I click OK. I established one relationship payment with the order. But there is another table out there that is called the customer. So I have to establish another relationship. I click on new and I'll have, remember I have to choose payment here again because that is my primary table in this particular analysis. Here I choose the invoice. Now remaining data is customer. I choose the customer. Invoice has been picked up by itself. I click OK. Now see what has happened. There are two active relationships. One is between the payment and the customer, and another one is the payment in the order. That means there is a relationship between the customer and the order. It may be indirect. Now you close it because now they are into data modeling. Now you see, I can bring the first name from the customer. All right, and I come to the payment, and I bring in the invoice total from the payment. All right. I keep it in the value field. See, customer wise data has been given. Right. So you remove the customer. Let me go to maybe the order. All right. Maybe product category you choose. Right. So you are getting your data according to the product category. So even if the sources are in the different worksheets, by establishing a relationship, we can integrate them and we can run any kind of analysis with this one. This is called the basic data modeling. Definitely the advanced data modeling will do it when we'll do the Power Query and the Power Pivot. But this is basic way we can actually create a data model and do the analysis. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you very much.